Good evening from Vietnam, Mark. Thanks a lot for spending your morning to join our Inside Sharing show and share your stories with our audience. And on behalf of the listener of the show, I want to say thank you to you for for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Great to meet you virtually and exchange some discussions back and forth over the last few months. It's been great.
Uh, Mark, earlier I already told you that we want to send our invitation to you if you come to my country. You let us know in advance. Then we make sure that we're gonna stay here and then we're gonna welcome you, take you around, show you how beautiful our country is. Okay.
I would love that. All of my travels, I have traveled over to Asia, but I have not made it to Vietnam. And my favorite time is to visit somebody that I know. And so the personal invite is what makes it a valuable trip. It's so beautiful. So thanks for the invite.
You're very welcome. If Mark, in our culture, it's very honored if we can have you to do a little introductions about who you are and what does you do to our audience. Can you please do that?
Yeah, sure. Marc D. Braun, the middle initial is important because there's a lot of Marc Brauns out there. And what I do, my purpose in life is to encourage other human beings to be everything they were created to be. What I do primarily to do that is I build a team of coaches, myself and others, that go out and coach CEOs and senior executives in business, in for-profit businesses, on how do they grow themselves and how do they build a culture where every single person is growing and thriving.
Wow. So you're coaching executives to be better, and then those executives already, really, really good at what they do already. So tonight we're gonna go deeper and explore the journey that making you to what you are doing today. All right.
Would love it.
So
Look
Mark,
forward to
yeah,
it.
Mark. So let's travel time. When I was a little boy, I always dream of one day becoming an astronaut. So wearing astronaut
Mm.
suit and jumping in different planet. But life did not give me any chance to do anything even close to be one, right? So I wonder, as a young Mark, what was your dream about your future, though?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this morning. When I was 2 years old, my family picked up from the city and moved to a farm, and we had 100 acres. And I have pictures from where I was helping my dad rebuild the farmhouse and working in the garden and picking up rocks and growing up on that farm. I just saw this beautiful, expansive world. And what my dream, I got a BB gun when I was 5 years old, and I was a real sharpshooter. So I really wanted to be the best BB gun shooter in the world. That was my dream. I thought that that was the expanse that I could build. Um, it was just so fun to be out there in nature and to be able to see as far as, I mean, it was 100 acres, and it was my whole world.
Yeah.
And I could, I didn't think there were any edges to it. I just thought it was infinite at that age. And so that was my dream,
Yeah.
was to continue to get better at shooting BB guns.
Wow. And then 180 acres is a really, really big world for a lot of people, right?
It's a really big world for a lot of people. It was the experience of growing up on a farm instead of in a city. There's something magical about it.
Mm,
I still love to go back into the country and just see it and feel it.
mm,
There's so much encouragement just in nature there to be able to grow and to learn and to
mm.
explore. Most people don't get a BB gun at 5 years old, but on the farm, you can do that. You can just keep on experimenting and growing and changing and learning. And so, anyway,
Wow.
a fun experience there early on.
Beautiful. And then how after that, from that 2 years old, have you begun until, and then going to the world, what the journey that took you after that?
Well, so in school, first of all, just my father, who moved us to the farm, he
Mm,
was an infinite encourager himself. He was the kind of person I remember feeling. like there was nothing that he thought I couldn't accomplish.
Wow.
He um, just poured in and encouraged me to try things and learn new things and explore the world. And he did that for his whole life until he passed away only a few years ago.
I'm
My
sorry.
mom was taught me unconditional love for others and the kindness and the sensitivity and compassion that she had. And so for me, the learning of those two forces that were early formational for me in my life, one was my dad being an encourager and a passionate leader, and my
Mm,
mom being a compassionate human being. Those are what formed the raw material to be able to go out into the world. When I
mm,
got into high school, I started exploring with those two things, and I started taking classes, and math and science came very naturally for me. So I really enjoyed them, and English didn't come very naturally for me. And so I got the dream early in high school to be an engineer because
ah,
I remember seeing uh, a newspaper article, and I read the highest salaries that were coming out of college, and I saw that chemical engineers made the most money. And so I said, well, that sounds great. Let's do that. And
ah.
so that's what I ended up studying in school was chemical engineering.
I wish my wife is gonna be joining us in this conversation tonight, but she has a client in the gathering, so she could not join. And she would love to have the people in the same field as her, so the conversation would be a lot more deeper in the science world, where I'm not into that. So she also coming from the background in the chemical engineer, and
Yeah,
so maybe we hook up in a different time in Vietnam, and then we can have you the two of you talking about the chemistry world. Okay.
that would be fun. But you
Yeah.
know what's interesting is what I
Mm,
found in chemical engineering was that I liked problem solving. I really
mm,
enjoyed complex problems. And engineering gives you a really good foundation of working with complex problems. Chemical engineering specifically gives you an idea that you can't even see the things that you're trying to solve.
mm,
So you're working with things that you can't visually see.
mm,
And so trying to solve problems when you can't see them is
mm,
actually really hard for human beings. And so we end up needing a lot of practice trying to figure out how have we done it before? How can we learn how to do it? What experiments can we run to try it? And
mm,
so it builds a lot of those problem solving skill sets
mm.
in early on.
Well, I'm curious to know why, out of if you were good at, like science, right, math and stuff, there's a lot of other, like profession that career that you could choose, degrees that you can join and learn, right? But why did you choose in chemical besides, it was the career with good salary though?
Yeah. So the salary was the one that I share. My parents got divorced when I was 9 years old, and so I ended up having a split household. And both of them remarried, and my stepfather was a chemical engineer,
Oh.
and I watched him in his professional world, and where my dad was very passionate and encouraging, my stepfather was very stable and steady and loyal and reliable, and he was a chemical engineer, and I needed those both of those dad figures to be able to understand. My youth was fighting against every discipline in the world. I was trying to break free and move out and do all the things that youth does, and I saw an example in my stepfather of stability. And
Oh.
so that was the other deeper reason for choosing chemical engineering: the challenge, the salary, and a stability that I needed in my life.
Wow. So you have a lot, the three-person come into your life, your mom, your father, and then your stepfather was different aspects, bring different kind of narrative into your life that build you in doing different kind of things in your life. So how after graduating, Mark, what after that? What is the
Yeah.
journey after that?
Well, I think so. I think one piece, what I learned in school is that you have to take tests, and if you get good scores on them, you get good grades.
Mm,
And in college, I learned that. every class was graded on a curve, and so you had to get the highest
Mm.
and best, and everybody else had to lose for you to win. On the curve, you ended up needing to be better than others, and so I got into the real world of work, and very quickly found that that model was an ineffective model for the for the world, for the business world. So I stepped in as a chemical engineer to Dow Chemical, and I started to use that same model. I tried to beat everybody and be smarter than them and come up with great ideas. And I had this beautiful leader, Bruce Farble, who shared that that wasn't the best model. And then I had a gentleman, an older gentleman. Bruce shared, you need to listen to other people. You need to learn what they know and not what you know. You need to be more quiet and listen more instead of try to beat them. And I said, well, okay. So then I listened to Herb Michael, who was a mentor. He had been there for 40 years and an engineer, really brilliant engineer. And he came in and he said three things to me. He said, Mark, I like you. I said, I'm really glad I like you too. He said, you're really smart. And I said, that's all that I care about is being smart. Like, thank you so much. You see me, you know me, you care about me, and you know that I'm smart. And he said, if you don't change how you interact with the operators, you're going to be gone in 6 months. Wow. And I said, wow. I said, it was the first time, I saw failure and I was staring it in the face. Mm-hmm. And, he said, you need to shift how you interact with people. Mm. And he was clear, he was loving, he was caring. And that was my first coach. Mm. It was my first person who loved me exactly as I was, but called me to something bigger. Uh-huh. And so I started to listen and have a genuine interest in the operators. It was a union plant, and they had 28 years of experience, and they had been there and done that. And I just started listening to them and asking for how I could help them. And I used whatever experiences I had to help them get what they wanted. And it changed everything. I've been doing that same thing for the last 27 years, wow. Using the same advice from that one coach in my life.
Is it Kurt or Hurt? What's his name?
Herb Michael is his name.
Herb.
And, he had taken the technology path to leadership. So he didn't have any direct reports. He had been there for 40 years in the plant, brilliant man. But he saw this young engineer, brash. I was coming hard with my ideas, and he said that's not going to work. And the fact that he saw me and I felt like I belonged and I needed to change, and I was just reflecting on that experience and the love that I have for Herb. He's impacted every part of my life. And now I get other coaches who enter my life over the last 27 years, but I can listen to them and if they care about me and they recognize some of the strengths I have and then call me to a new direction and say, you would be better over here, you need to change, then I'm encouraged to change.
Have you ever talked to Herb about and asked him why did he choose to coach you 20 something years ago?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have Herb has passed away. I haven't
I'm sorry.
gotten to see him in a long time, but I was able to share my gratitude before he did, and I was there for another 4 years, and so he got to see the movement. What I can feel in my own heart is when I pour into a leader and they move, they grow like I was willing to grow from his advice and his counsel and his coaching. It is so rewarding for myself. I want to do it more and more because I know that he my guess, I didn't get to ask him specifically, but I got to see it in his face. He got to make an impact. Where he's still making an impact today.
Absolutely.
Because he chose to be a coach in somebody else's life.
I know. Wow.
What a beautiful gift.
Yep. Mark, I want to bring you to the moment that Herb decided to talk to you in that very beautiful conversation, and he told you that if you're not changed, you're gonna be gone in about 6 months' time, right? And imagine back then you were young, eager, and want to grow, and very smart. So a lot of people at that stage we take it to the personal level and ignore the advices and the wisdom shared by like the other person, but then continue to go with what they believe is good at, right? So back then
Right.
you were young, you were smart, you were eager to grow and have a bit ambitious with big ego. So why did you decided to listen to him and let him coach you and make a tremendous change in your life thereafter?
Yeah, I mean, I have reflected on that. I don't think it's something special about me. I think it's something special about him.
Oh,
Um, the the willingness of him to see me, to not judge me for my incompetence and unskilled behavior, to demonstrate, to invite me into the conversation. He wasn't my formal boss. He didn't have to do this. He called me into his office and said, I want to share this with you. And it was out of love. It was out of, there was nothing else I could describe. He decided to invest in another human's life.
beautiful.
That and so because of that, I responded. If he would have come back and said, "You're arrogant, cocky, and an asshole," I wouldn't. And if he didn't care about me, I wouldn't have moved. I would have. I mean, I had been called cocky before. I had been told that I was a know-it-all before. But nobody had sat me down and shared out of love. This is what's happening. I see you, and I love you. He didn't say those words, but that's what he was demonstrating. And here are the consequences that I see if you don't move. And I don't think you want the consequences. I'm not threatening you. I'm just sharing. And so that I have watched. So I've had coaches in my life constantly for the last 27 years. 20 years ago was the first time I hired an external coach, not in the organization that I was in. And what I'm searching for there is someone who will see me, who will accept me exactly as I am, and challenge me to if you want this over here, you're going to have to change how you behave. And so I just try to continue to search for those people who are willing to have that characteristic. So it was Herb that was special, not me. I think I was human, and he was willing to step into the coaching role.
See, around us, there's a lot of angel happen to our life, right? They come and they really help us to change and go into the next level in our life, and we become the people that carry their legacies, even they're not here anymore. So I think that even he passed away already, but his works and his contributions we're gonna continue through your works, and then the works that you do for others will continue because of him, who was the original person to start all of that beautiful ignite all of that beautiful change inside of you, Mark. So
Yeah, and I can name 10 other people at different times that have done the same, speaking in at the moment. And I've grown enough to where I believe this whole universe works in
Mm,
mysterious ways. And, whether we call it the universe or God or a higher power or something, I don't know how it all works, but
mm,
I know that there have been times when I needed it and I've been open to it, and the people show up.
mm,
Herbs show up,
mm,
and Mark Toms and Gary Ridges
mm.
and you. This morning, your energy, I got to read some of your writing this morning in preparation, and it's beautiful. I'm learning from you, and you can step into that coaching role. You can see me. You can say, "Hey, I see the strengths, and if you desire, you can tell me you need to move this direction," and I would listen
Thank
because you've demonstrated care.
thank you, Mark. Um, Thanks for sharing that. Sometimes you point the fingers at me and tell about me, make me shy. So I need to point the finger back to you. you know,
Well, next time we'll interview you. How about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll be so
Yeah.
happy to do that. And Mark, if you said that you've been having like 10 different kind of persons, like similar to her in your life, right, or even more, what do you see they have in common? Can you share?
Yeah, so I've shared this a few times when people are asking me what to look for in a coach.
Mm,
What do I look for in others
mm,
that I want to be able to speak into my life deeply, which is where a coach speaks. The first criteria is they can't be you.
mm,
So most people don't ever select a coach, never listen to others, so they don't have anybody speaking into their life.
mm.
So the first criteria is they can't be you, which gives you almost 8 billion choices.
Yeah.
The second is that they have to care about you more than they care about themselves in the conversation.
Mm,
They have to actually have been converted somehow to a system of other focus, of love, of extending that to others.
mm,
And they have to be willing to have that relationship with you.
mm,
You already have those people in your life. There's people in your life who already love you.
mm,
And so, those, and there's lots of people in the world who have gotten to a point where they're not doing this for them. At 23, all I was doing was for me. I didn't have others in my mind.
mm.
I didn't know what beauty there was in that. I hadn't ever figured it out. I hadn't become an adult.
Yeah.
And I see so many people in this world that are at every age that have never converted to others focus. They've never made it about other people. They're still trying to figure out themselves. So don't select a coach that is still in that selfish mindset. The third thing is that they should have experiences that are relevant to what you're trying to go after. So
Yeah.
Herb had been there 40 years. He said to me, if you don't change, you won't be here for another 6 months.
Mm,
So he had all three criteria. He wasn't me. He cared about me in the conversation. He was not telling me this to get himself better. He wasn't doing this for anything for him. He was doing it for me. And then the third thing is he had made it where I wanted to be able to make it through
mm,
this thing. I did not want to get fired in 6 months. And
mm,
he had been there 40 years, so he had figured out something.
mm,
And so I was willing to hear because of those three things.
mm.
And those three things I now search for whenever I look for a coach. The reason I met Gary Ridge was I called him because he has those three criteria. I've spoken on stage with him and I love him. I watch him. He is not me. He cares about others more than himself. He
Mm,
has converted to that model and he's built it into his leadership. And
mm.
he's been places and had experiences that I could learn from.
Yeah.
And so he could give so much. I could gain so much and learn so much if he were to move into a coaching role with me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that 3 points. Then it now goes to you again. Because the
Yeah.
previous question we asked a common thing about, those coaches happen to your life, right? Now I'm asking about those 10 moments that happen in your life that you were showing vulnerable and wanted to look for coach that could help you to achieve to the next level. What
Yeah.
was, what trigger inside of you to look for that change though?
Well, I'll share one of them and we can decide how many of to share. But one of them was 20 years ago, I had been promoted. I had moved from engineering into
Mm,
sales,
mm,
and I had been in an individual contributor role in sales, and I
mm,
had gotten pretty good at it. I was learning and growing and selling,
mm,
and I got promoted to a VP of sales role. And so I was going to have a team. And I had no idea. It was the first time that I would have direct reports that I was leading. And I remember feeling overwhelmed, stuck, scared to death. I was like, how am I? I mean, I know how to sell, but I have no idea how to get everybody else to do what I'm doing.
mm.
And so I went searching. And the other thing is it was in a smaller company, so there was nobody above me who could teach me or coach me
Oh.
on how to do it. And so I was expected at the executive level to lead this whole thing. And I was like, I have no idea. The growth rate that our target was 40% compounded annually. So we had to double sales every 2 years. And I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Mm,
So I went in search of a coach. And I found Dave Hodel. He's here in St. Louis.
mm,
And I sat down with him. He met all three criteria. He was not me. In the first hour, he asked so many beautiful questions, just like you're doing, to see me, to understand who I am, my strengths, and where I'm at. And I was so moved by that one session. He also shared, he was a trainer and coach for sales and sales leadership, and he had been through the roles that
mm.
I've been trying to build. And so I hired him to be my coach. And he was my coach for the next 5 or 6 years
Oh.
as I built out that team. And he coached me, and then he helped me coach the team. He taught me what it looks like to coach formally and how to do it well in a leadership role. And so many lessons have been learned from Dave over those 5 years. I mean, unbelievable. But it was the first time I hired my external coach. I remember paying him $2,000 a month. And I was like, I couldn't believe that I was going to pay somebody else $2,000 a month just to help me grow faster.
Ah. And that was 20 years
But
ago.
that was 20 years ago. That was 20 years ago.
Oh my
And
God.
the return on that was unbelievable. I think about the 40% compounded annual growth rate
Uh-huh.
over the next 5 years as we built that business up from 10 million to 20 to 40. And it's just like, and the team grows. And I'm growing as a leader. I'm
Uh-huh.
learning. What does it look like? Because I've been an engineer and a salesperson, but I haven't been a leader. I don't know what it looks like. And so just fabulous. I learned so much from Dave.
Wow. And then how what going on after that? After the sales role and be very successful into the sales role, you jump into a different career again and went into the C-suite, the ballroom, right? So, tell us about that journey.
Well, one more message about Dave. And one more message about coaches in general. So, Herb never took any credit for the growth that I experienced
Mm,
from his coaching. Dave never took any credit
beautiful.
for the growth that I experienced under his coaching. He knew and he believed that it was me who was leading. His job was to encourage and walk alongside,
Mm,
not to do. And so I just think about that. That's one of the secrets for me of coaching. It's not taking credit for the person that's leading. It's just allowing them to learn and grow and be who they are meant to be.
mm,
So back to the next role. So I stepped into a overall president role, and I didn't think that it was going to be as hard of a jump from when I was leading, when I was doing sales and I jumped up to leading sales. I knew that was a big jump, and so I felt the stuck almost immediately. I felt the fear almost immediately. When I stepped into the role of president, I didn't realize how much different it would be. And it didn't take me long to feel stuck and concerned. And but I could feel it. I could feel that I was not capable of doing the job. I needed to change dramatically how I led. I couldn't be the functional leader of engineering or the functional leader of sales. I had to have and build out the team that was better than me at every function: sales, engineering, operations, product design, everything, finance. And so I searched out for another coach.
Wow.
And found one. His name is Marc, and I sat down with him, and the three criteria: he wasn't me. In the first conversation, I could tell that he had been to the other side. He had already done all that he needed to do. He wasn't trying to just be better himself. He was trying to give back. And you could feel it in the conversation just from how he interfaced and listened and cared, how he led his life. It was beautiful. And then the third thing is he had run a $2 billion operation for Tyco Healthcare. And he had made those decisions and been in those spots and built the teams. And so he had experiences that were what I needed to learn from. And so we got to coach for 6 or 7 years together. Wow. And I've never exhausted. He is still ahead of me, running fast and growing and learning. And I still could learn so much from just walking alongside him. He's a dear friend of mine, and so I get to walk alongside him as a friend. But he moved back into a leadership role, direct leadership role, and so he's no longer in a coaching practice. And so I would hire him in a minute to coach again, because he's such a beautiful human being, and definitely meets the three criteria.
Beautiful. So meeting the three criteria. So it's not you, and then they have to care about you, and they have a competency to help you to go to the next level, right? So
correct.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I was, when I listened to this conversation, Mark, I thought that you're gonna go into being your own and become an executive coach way longer before. So what happened in 2021 that you decided to run solo and start practicing the executive coaching and help people to grow on your own terms?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I spent 13 years at Cambridge Air Solutions. John Kramer is the owner and chairman, and he is a dear friend. And the question that I have answered for myself is, why did I stay for 13 years instead of why did I leave? So my norm, because coaching is something that I love doing, I have been doing it for a long time, ever since the conversation with Herb. My desire has always been to play the role that I'm in until I have someone ready to play that role, and then I move on to the next role. And it's always been that way. So as an engineer, I wanted the operators to be able to step up and do the work that they're capable of doing, but engineers were tasked to do. And I wanted engineers to be able to step up and lead. In the sales role, I wanted to play the sales role until I could get salespeople doing the sales role. And then I wanted to play the VP role until I could get a VP ready. In the president role, I wanted to do that same thing. But what was interesting is the way I share the story is almost 6 years before I left, there were two executives, myself and another, who were ready for the president role. So 6 years ago, I already had someone ready to do the role in the organization. 4 years before, I had two people ready. We had two people ready to do the president role, and I was still in it. 1 year before I left, we had three executives. I had three direct reports, and all three of them were capable of the president role. And I was still in the position. And COVID hit, and I'm sitting there, and the organization is growing beautifully through it. They're agile and navigating and making all the changes. And I'm watching, and all three of them are doing they're doing I don't have much of a role left except for coaching them, because they're all capable of doing it. They're leading the company. It's a $40 million company. And so I'm like, why am I staying? I normally leave as soon as I have someone ready. But this time I've stayed 6 years past that. I stayed 13 years. And the question was why? And I always ask this question of my coaching clients and my friends is, what are you afraid of? And I could feel that it was fear holding me back from moving and allowing them to grow. And I got with my coaches and advisors and said, I'm the problem. I need to move so that they can grow. I need to move out of the role so that they can step into the role. It took a year. I had written on the process before. It took a year to make the transition because the owner needed to be ready and to name a new president, and we needed some systems in place. And I had said it would take a year to leave. Well, and so it took a year. Made the decision in June of 2020, and then executed that decision in 2021. The next version is the question was whether I'm going to go off and run another company or whether I'm going to build a company. And I asked the same question: which one am I scared of more? Which one is harder for me? And the answer was clear. Building my own was much more uncomfortable than running another company. It felt very comfortable to go run another company because I've done it, but I haven't built one. And so knowing that it takes courage to grow, and I wanted to try the uncomfortable, I said, let's do it. My wife, Melanie, actually was the last straw in that. She was the coach. She sat down with me for lunch, and it was June of right before the exit, and I was still making a decision because I was looking at, people were offering CEO roles, or I could go start this. And she said, if you start the business, I will do it with you.
Oh, beautiful.
And the risk, is that, it's significant risk to her and the family. The CEO role is comfortable and pays better and has all kinds of potential, and the business startup is risky. And she said, if you do that, I will do it with you. And so we've been building the business together. She's a 50-50 partner with me in life and in business, and it's been an amazing journey for us together as a couple.
Wow, beautiful. And I think the beautiful part is not only you do it yourself, but it's like you and Melanie to do it together. So give a way, leave behind the comfortability of all the benefits at like working for other companies, right? And then go into the one in war and start to build everything from scratch. So I really wonder, in that particular month of June or July, that summer, what was the regular conversation between you and her surrounding leaving the organization and startup? Do the startup? What was the typical conversation between the two of you?
Well, my favorite conversation to share was have you seen Queen's Gambit, the show about chess, or do you play chess?
I play chess, but I haven't seen that Queen. What's the name?
It's called Queen's Gambit.
Queen Gambit.
It was watched. It's a Netflix show that was watched all over the place. But in the show, the chess player is trying to move all the pieces and making sure that they're the right moves, and she's doing them all in her head. And I remember I was trying to move all the pieces because I really wanted my sincere desire was for Cambridge to flourish afterwards
Uh-huh.
and for us to go do this. And I was moving all the pieces, and I was up in the middle of the night moving the pieces, trying to figure out how to control the outcome. All the outcomes, how many pieces. It was complex,
Uh-huh.
and I remember just being anxious and frustrated because I couldn't figure out all the moves.
Uh-huh.
And she said, uh, what if you surrendered that? What if you gave up the results and stopped thinking that you could control them?
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
she has a beautiful faith, and she said, what if you gave that to God? What if you allowed that one to be given away?
Mm.
And I was just like, wow. I remember the freedom that came after just giving up trying to control every outcome. I don't lead Cambridge. I
Mm.
want them to be thriving, but I don't lead them. And
Mm.
so I don't have control over them.
Mm.
And I needed to give, she gave me permission to give that up and to
Wow.
allow and celebrate their growth. And so that same thing, how do we surrender the results of the business? How do
Mm.
we just do the actions and take the steps that we need to take, but accept and be grateful for whatever comes?
Mm.
And she really helped me in that anxious world of transition, just to be able
Beautiful.
to be at peace, to turn
Mm.
it over, and to allow it to be part of just being able to be part of it instead of owning it and controlling the outcome.
Beautiful. I'm curious. You're coming from the engineering background. So, for Melanie, what was her background actually?
Yeah, that's great. She's so her degree is in theater. She is beautiful at all kinds of arts and crafts, and she's got the opposite skill sets in
Mm.
many ways to me. And whenever I shared with you that like my normal is I don't have discipline isn't my normal natural.
Mm.
She is so disciplined and so capable of, like, we've had dinner together as a family for 23 years. And to be able to do that routinely and
Mm.
regularly and to build the habits of life into the family structure, she's magical at it. She's so gifted at it. And
Wow.
so I need that grounding. I need the grounding of a stable wife that can actually have those kind of beautiful habits, because otherwise I would run off the rails. I would go, I would turn too often.
She's not just a wife to you. She's is a dear friend, a buddy, and like just not a wife to you, Mark. So please send our regards, our love to Melanie for
I
doing
will.
amazing things, together with you. All right.
I will do that. It's
Excellent.
really been fun. She's played several roles in the business, but she actually went back and got certified as a coach through the
Mm,
coaching process. And it's not her. It's She has not been in the business world for the last 27 years. And
mm,
watching the coaching process, she is somebody other than others, right?
mm,
She's other. She cares deeply about them,
mm,
and she has enormous experiences to help people navigate. And so it's been interesting to watch the power of a standard process for coaching and how that can work if you've got those three elements in place.
mm.
So I'm elated to see her experimenting with actually helping people. And then we're building out a team. So we've got another executive who's joined us who has exited similar to me, and he's coaching as well. And so we're playing with how do we build out a group around the world that can coach, that loves that part of the world, that wants to give back and encourage
Mm.
others and encourage leaders. I think you would be an incredible coach yourself.
Wow. Wonderful. I would love to be part of that. And I would love to nominate my wife also. I let her know she's a wonderful person. And then she's also a really dear friend of me ever, for 20 years. And then we've been, like learning and growing together. So I really like
Yeah.
the whole journey. So Mark, uh, thanks for, the beautiful invitation, and I believe that there's always a possibility out there. So, I'll jump into the ship and say yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
We can definitely, no matter what, you're part of encouraging leaders because you're encouraging leaders. I can see it. It's how you live. It's the way you carry yourself. It's through all of your writing. It's through all of your the way that you build content and share, and it's how you live.
Mm, thank you. Hey, Mark, I have two last questions for the conversation tonight. All right. And throughout our talks, you mentioned about the word thinking numerous times. All right. And then
Say that again.
the word thinking, you mentioned about that, around our conversation a lot. And so Vivian and I, we've been in the quest to help people to improve their ability to think because we both believe that our thinking capability these days has been diminishing. So if we can talk to
Mm,
experts in the conversation like this, if we can pick how you think and share that with people, if they can pick,
mm,
learn and apply, and whatever works for them, that can help them to improve their ability to think, that will lead into, a positive change in their life. That would be wonderful. So my question
yeah.
is, Mark, how have you been helping you to improve your ability to think over the years?
Mm. Well, I think that I will share one experience that's changed the way I think
Please.
radically, and I'll do it in 5 minutes, in 3 minutes. Do we
Okay.
have 3 minutes for a story?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So Melanie and I, as we were married 23 years ago, we had a young man in our life, an adopted young man, Ryan, who came into our life when he was 8 years old, and he was in our wedding, and he was our first uh, child. He wasn't born by blood, but we helped raise him with his mom. His dad had left him, and so he was just part of our family. And we walked through that with him as we had our own three kids. And when he got older and graduated from high school, he went and signed up for the army. Um, and he ended up serving in Iraq.
Oh.
And he was hurt on the battlefield as he was serving our country. And when he came back, he struggled mightily. And so this was 13, 12 years ago when he came back. And he struggled with depression, addiction, and with life. And I remember all of the problem solving skills that I had gained were completely exhausted. I had zero chance of figuring out I wanted to save his life,
Mm.
and I didn't know how. And so I went to friends and asked for help and support, and they shared with me the recovery system. They gave me the number of somebody in recovery, and I called Wes, and Wes was running a recovery house. And Wes wasn't scared at all of
Mm.
everything that I was scared to death of. I was scared to lose this young man's life, and Wes was like, "Bring him in. We'll just talk to him."
Mm.
And so we sat down. Wes asked him some questions and said, "If you don't change your behavior, you're going to die." And I remember the conversation so vividly. He did it like Herb did for me. He said it with love, with care, respect, and he told him the truth. If you don't change, you're going to die.
Mm.
And we lost him 2 years later. But what I learned um, through that 2 years and what I've learned through the last 12 years is that the work that we do in our life, the way that we show up for others, the way that we love them deeply, offer them clarity, and offer them a path that can be to life, that can lead to living.
Mm.
is a life or death discussion. And so I found that what I want to do is I want to be able to, before people get to the point where they're in life or death threatening situations, I want them to see that relying on somebody like Wes or Herb or others, calling them in times when we're okay, but we're stuck. We're struggling, but we're not at the deepest, darkest spot in our life. We need people going there now. And his name is Ryan. Ryan is in my life so deeply. He, my smile is from him. I carry it around with me as a badge of honor to honor his life. And I do this work in big part to serve his life. The thing that you asked about is how did I change my thinking? I needed to be part of a system like recovery. To be, I needed to be part of that. I have been part of that system for the last 12 years because I needed to learn that the only person I could be responsible for was me. I could love him and give him every chance to move and change, but I couldn't control the outcome. And I needed to learn that over and over and over and over. I can forget it today or tomorrow. I needed to be part of that system. And so the recovery system has taught me so much about how to live and how to love and how to lead. And so I not everybody needs to go into that system to learn those things, but I want to be able to live those principles in all of my life. And so I think I know it's a little hard of a conversation, but the middle of the conversation is hard. I have a gratitude list a mile long for the way that I got to be part of Ryan's life. And it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced and our family's ever experienced, but it was a beautiful part of what allows me to keep on going out and doing the work.
So, Mark, I'm so sorry for what happened to Ryan. And personally, I'm not good, when I put into that situation, and I don't know what to say. It's just our heart with, with you. And, I think that after he passed, then he gives you a lot of encouragement to continue, carry and doing, the great thing on his behalf, and that is something that you're doing really really well. So, and wherever he is right now, he's happy that he knows that you're gonna make an impact on the people around you, and multiply that so that we have a lot more people in needs like him. All right.
Yeah. You know what you can do is keep on smiling.
Yeah.
Your smile reminds me of him, and it's a beautiful smile that goes around the world. And you don't have to have anything to say. Just keep on living and leading, and it's beautiful. So I think that you're right. He is. We all only get a moment on this earth, and we get to decide how we go out and live. And I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged and hopeful that we can actually make an impact.
Yeah.
There's so many reasons that people look for to be discouraged.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to be part of it. I don't want to be the one discouraging others.
Yeah.
I would love to be an encouraging force for others, and Ryan was that for me.
Wow. You see, you mentioned about three words, very important: live, love, and lead. Right? A lot of us in life, do all of that three halfway. So we hope that if they can go full throttle,
All
give
in.
100% into living, 100% into loving, and 100% or even more percentage onto all of those three. So that imagine how impactful we can have for the people next to us, and then that energies can transfer to the next person, to the next person, and you see how beautiful the community that we can creating in our own ability, you see. So that's all in us. Yeah.
I love that, and I think about your comment from the beginning of the show is Herb's words of encouragement 27 years ago, even after he's passed, is still having an impact in the world.
I know.
And so go out today speak into somebody's life, let them know that they belong, see that they care, that you care about them, and offer support. And then if you're on the other side of that, go search for someone in your circle. Reach out to someone who can speak into your life. You're not alone, and you don't ever have to be alone.
Yep.
There's plenty of people who would love to speak into your life, and you're one of them. And so, and I'm one of them. And Gary Ridge is one of them, and Chester Elton is one of them, and just so many people in the world that are one of them. So go be encouraged.
We have 8 billion in the world who each is one of them, right? So
That's right. That's right. And if they need support, then give it. But if they've got a strong system and they've got strong habits and they've been there, then let them pour into you.
Yeah.
Listen to them and actually adjust your behavior accordingly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
I know. I'll go to the last question, all right, and then so that you can start, go out with Melanie and enjoy the day and enjoy coaching people. Um, we know you had a beautiful world of 180 acre, right? And that's huge for you to explore. When you were young, get into the university and enjoy being an engineer. Get out and then be an engineer, be the salesperson, be a leader in an organization now, and helping people to become better individual, better leaders, so that they can lead their organization and at the same time live, love, and lead. All three of pillar beautifully, right? So Mark, is there anything you are working on and you are exciting? You want to share with me and the audience so together we can celebrate with you in advance?
Oh boy. Well, I'll give you two real quickly. One is my son is almost graduating as a chemical engineer.
Oh,
He's 22 years old. Nicholas is his name. What I wanted you to celebrate was this last summer he worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and he told me that his friends were like, "I can't believe you're so capable and you're working as a dishwasher," and he loved it, and he was the best dishwasher they had ever seen, and he was working to build the team out and figuring out how to do it well. And he came back and he said, Dad, it doesn't matter what role I have, I just want to love it. I just want to enjoy it and celebrate it and make it better. And so I was just so proud of him for not needing to fit into the perfect whatever role, and to just love the role that he's in. So that's one thing. My kids, all three of them, I love them dearly, and just watching them learn and grow, and the fact that I get to be the privilege of being a father is just a wonderful thing to celebrate with me. On the business front, we are getting ready to launch Encouraging Leaders as a brand and as a community. And it is what I want every leader, every human, I want them to do three things. I want them to be encouraged to step out of their comfort zone and learn and grow. I want them to know that that's not done as a kid, that's done as a human. And I want them to do that for the rest of their life. So I want them to be encouraged to step out of their comfort zone. I want them to be encouraged to practice and be grateful in their life for how far they've come. So I want them to be encouraged to practice gratitude. And then I want them to, with those two things, I want them to pay that forward and to be converted to others focused, so that they see their primary role as encouraging other human beings. My definition of encourage is to breathe courage into another human being.
Beautiful.
For the purpose of them becoming the person they were created to be. So encourage, to breathe courage into another human being. It happens, it only happens in relations. You have to have two people. one giving courage and the other one receiving the breath of courage. Herb did that for me. Dave did that for me. Marc did that for me. You're doing that for me. I hope that I can do it for you.
Wonderful.
Encourage other human beings. And that, for me, if we can get those three things, encouraged to step out of their comfort zone and learn and grow for the rest of their life, not just when they're kids. And then encouraged to practice gratitude, and then encouraged to actually be encouraging to others so that they see that and they know that people are doing it for them and they need to do it for others. However good they are at it, they need to get better at it. They just need to keep on trying. They will be an encouragement. Herb was not a natural coach. He didn't ask for the role. He didn't get paid to coach. He was an engineer, like deep. But he encouraged another human being. And it has impacted my family. And it's impacted my community. It's impacted all the people I've touched. And we never know what that's going to do, but I would love for people to be doing that work.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I told you that I have two last questions for you, but through the last question, I have one more I want to ask. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Definitely.
So earlier you said that your father was a big source of encouragement for you to do anything that you wanted to be in life, right? Your mom was a wonderful source of loving, so she cares, she loves, so she really, taking well care of you. And then your stepdad was providing the stability, one of the figures that helped you to, still, to get into the chemical engineering world, right? And then start the whole professional journey for you. And then when you talk about what Nicholas was doing, all right, and I tell him that I really admire what he does at the age of 22 years old, and really, really step up his game. Whatever he does, he want to do it best. Try to lead the team there, try to make like improvement and excitement in what he does. That leads me to the question that I want to know: how you and Melanie run your run raise your kid. What is the principle that you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think about the two pieces. One is the courageous growth. They know that that stepping out of our comfort zone is actually where growth happens, and they've told me that they don't want to know, because they're all older now. They don't want to know what I know. They don't want to hear me tell them, I know this, I know this, I know this. What they want to know and see from their dad, from me, is what am I learning? Where am I uncomfortable, and where am I pushing? What am I actually learning? What am I trying that I'm probably going to fail at? Where am I at my edge? So for me, as they're very young, when they're young kids, you're teaching them what you know, but as they grow, you're actually teaching them what you're learning. And they need to see you actively outside your comfort zone so that they know it's okay to get outside theirs. One way we teach that is inside of the food area. So I've asked them, Melanie's asked them we ask them often, how courageous are they in eating? And as young kids, they started out on a scale of 1 to 10. They were a 3 or a 5 or a 6 or whatever they were. And they realized that more courage in the area of eating was a positive thing. And so we got to practice it over and over and over. And when they would say no to something, when they would say, I don't like that something, when they would say, that's yucky, when they would say, I hate that, we would say, well, actually, it just means yet. You haven't gotten comfortable with that food yet. There's people all around the world that enjoy that food, and you haven't yet got comfortable with it. And when you grow in courage, when you grow, you will learn to love it if you keep on trying it. And so food is one area where we've used intentional training for courage. The second piece, I think that this part is so hard for me because, I've mentioned the faith of Melanie. Melanie has actually been deep in faith for a long time, and I have only learned how to have faith in the last 17 or 18 years on my own. And being able to share those faith principles of what is the teachings of the faith traditions that we have, and how do we view those? So specifically, we happen to be raised. She was raised in a Christian home, and so was I. And teaching and sharing that the principles of unconditional love and loving your enemy is way, way outside of normal. And so some system to be able to teach that, and we have used the Christian faith traditions to teach those principles of how do you teach unconditional love? What does it even look like? It doesn't make any sense human-wise. Like, love your enemy? That doesn't make any sense. So you have to have some way to teach those principles. And those have been two primary things for me. One is courage and being always at our edge, sharing those places where we are, and using food as a primary teaching place to do that. So now they are all 10s. They will eat any food from any country. They love to explore the world because they love to see through the eyes of food. They all cook, and they all love to see that. And that is, for me, a place to grow courage. And then faith is how do you get that stuff inside of human beings to where they would not think that they need to be the end all be all on everything, and that they would counterintuitively love others, even if they're enemies or competitors.
Wow.
And so those are two things.
Beautiful. I would tell Vivian that that stories, because I'm ranking myself in food is about at 0.5, even less. So
On courage of food.
yeah, so I would try to move the needle to 1 and to 1.4, by 5, and then move further. I'll make sure that she be my coach. So anytime I refuse to eat different kind of food, and she remind me about how you and Melanie like encourage your children to go from 3 to 5 to 10. All right. What
I
are
love that. I can't wait to hear what you try.
Absolutely. What are the names of the two other children with Nicholas and what?
Nicholas, Noah, and Gabriel.
Noah and Gabriel.
Nicholas is 22, Noah's 19, actually just turned 20, and Gabriel is 16.
Wow. So please say hello to all of them first, to Melanie, to Nicholas, Noah, and Gabriel,
I will do it.
and let them know that we really, really, really admire their father, her husband, and I hope that one day we'll be able to see all of you in Vietnam in person, so that we can enjoy the courage of trying new food together. All right.
We'll do pho and banh mi, and we'll do anything that you would introduce us to. We would love to have some Vietnamese food.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that you worked in the restaurant business up in Seattle.
Yeah.
Pac. Do you know the Vietnamese restaurateur up there? Anyway, I'll send it to you.
Please.
There's a great cookbook from Seattle that I use in the Vietnamese side, and I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yeah.
It's such a great expanse for us at home. We love to try his recipes.
And then I will, and my wife and I will go to the US in February, and then I will use that recommendation from you. We go, then we eat, and then we let you know. Okay.
That would be wonderful. That sounds great.
Yeah, wonderful. Hey, Mark, thanks so much for spending your time with me this morning, in your time, this evening in my time, and having this wonderful conversation. There's so much that I and the audience learn from these conversations, and we really enjoy that. I look forward to seeing you in person, and I wish you all the best, to you and to your family. All right.
Thank you. Back at you, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.